Imagine a world stripped of almost everything, where comfort, safety, and certainty have vanished, and all that remains is one relationship to protect. Imagine being a parent whose only purpose, whose only reason to keep moving forward is the child walking beside you. In a landscape that offers no guarantees and no easy hope, what would you hold on to? What would you teach your child about goodness in a world that seems to have forgotten it? These questions burn at the center of a novel widely regarded as one of the most powerful explorations of parental love ever written. That novel is The Road by Cormac McCarthy, a spare and haunting book that won the highest honors and moved readers around the world with its stark beauty. It follows a father and his young son walking together across a devastated landscape, struggling to survive while holding on to their humanity and their love for each other. Beneath its bleak surface lies one of the most profound meditations in modern literature on love, hope, and what it means to keep going when everything else has been lost. From the start, the book studies the psychology of parental love in its purest, most concentrated form. Stripped of all the distractions and comforts of ordinary life, the father's love for his son becomes the single organizing force of his existence. The author shows how, when everything else is taken away, love can become the one thing that gives life meaning and direction. The story explores how a parent's devotion can be so total that it becomes a reason to survive the unsurvivable. It invites you to consider what or who in your own life functions as that kind of anchor, the reason you keep moving forward when everything feels uncertain. The novel also examines the way a parent shapes a child's understanding of the world. Throughout their journey, the father tries to teach his son what it means to be one of the good ones, to remain compassionate and decent despite everything. The author explores the profound responsibility of passing on values to the next generation, of being the source from which a child learns what goodness looks like. The story shows how a child watches and absorbs a parent's choices, learning from them what kind of person to become. It invites you to reflect on what the people who raised you taught you about goodness, and what you might be teaching those who look to you. The relationship between the father and son carries deep symbolic weight, representing the transmission of hope and humanity from one generation to the next. The son, born into the devastated world, often shows a purer moral instinct than his father, a tenderness and compassion that the father works to protect. The author uses this to suggest that hope lives in the young, in the next generation's capacity for goodness, and that protecting that goodness is one of the most important things an older generation can do. The story explores how a child becomes a symbol of the future itself, fragile and precious and worth any sacrifice. It invites you to consider what you would protect most fiercely if it represented the future of everything you valued. The narrative structure, stripped down and relentless, mirrors the bare survival the characters experience. The author removes nearly all comfort from the storytelling itself, leaving only the essential, which forces both the characters and the reader to confront what truly matters when everything else has been taken away. This spareness is a deliberate artistic choice that intensifies the emotional weight of every small moment of tenderness. The story explores how, when life is reduced to its essentials, the smallest acts of love and kindness become enormous. It invites you to consider what would remain essential in your own life if everything non-essential were stripped away. There is also a profound exploration of how love gives a person the strength to endure.
The father's body is failing, the world offers no comfort, and despair is always near. Yet his love for his son drives him to keep going far beyond what should be possible. The author shows how love can be a source of almost superhuman endurance, a force that sustains a person through suffering that would otherwise break them. The story suggests that having something to live for, someone to protect and love, can give a person strength they did not know they possessed. It invites you to consider how love has carried you through your own hardest moments. The emotional arc of the book moves through despair and exhaustion toward a fragile, hard-won hope, one that endures even through loss. Without revealing the ending, the story ultimately suggests that the fire, the goodness and hope the characters carry can be passed on and kept alive, even when individuals cannot continue forever. The author leaves the reader with the sense that love and goodness are not extinguished by hardship, that they persist and move forward, carried by those who refuse to let them die. It is a deeply moving affirmation that even in the darkest imaginable circumstances, the human capacity for love and hope endures. These are heavy themes, and the world the story paints is harsh, but the book's deepest message is ultimately one of light rather than darkness. It insists that love is the most powerful force a person can hold, that goodness is worth preserving even when the world offers no reward, and that hope can survive even the end of almost everything. The author seems to suggest that what makes us human, our love, our compassion, our refusal to surrender our goodness, is precisely what cannot be destroyed, no matter how dark the road becomes. There is also a quiet study of the way meaning is created through care for another. The father's days are reduced to the simplest tasks: finding food, finding shelter, keeping his son warm and safe, and yet these humble acts carry enormous meaning precisely because they are done out of love. The author shows how purpose does not require grand achievements or recognition, how the act of caring for another person can fill even the bleakest existence with meaning. The story suggests that to have someone to protect is to have a reason to live. It invites you to consider how caring for others has given shape and meaning to your own days, even in your hardest seasons. The book also explores the tension between hope and despair as a constant inner struggle. The father must continually choose hope, not because the world gives him reason to, but because despair would mean giving up on his son. The author examines how hope is often not a feeling that arrives on its own, but a choice a person makes again and again in the face of circumstances that argue against it. The story suggests that hope can be an act of will, a decision to keep going for the sake of someone you love. It invites you to reflect on the moments when you have had to choose hope deliberately, even when it did not come naturally. There is also a profound meditation on memory and what is worth preserving. The father carries memories of the world as it was, of beauty and kindness now nearly vanished, and he must decide what to pass on to a son who never knew that world. The author explores how memory becomes a way of preserving what matters, of keeping alive the idea of goodness and beauty, even when they have disappeared from the world around us. The story suggests that what we choose to remember and pass on shapes the future, even in the darkest times. It invites you to consider what memories and values you would most want to preserve and pass on to those who come after you. In the end, the road leaves you with a profound appreciation for the fierce love between a parent and a child, and for the human capacity to carry hope through darkness. It suggests that love can be a reason to endure the unendurable, that goodness is worth protecting even when the world forgets it, and that the fire we carry can be passed on to those who come after us. A story that reveals the unbreakable strength of love in the face of everything offers something that stays with you for a long time. Books aren't just stories, they're mirrors that help us understand ourselves better. Comment below with the book you would like explored next and the love that has given you the strength to keep going. If this kind of thoughtful book analysis means something to you, consider liking and subscribing so more of it can reach you. This video uses AI-generated audio and visuals for educational purposes only. This is just one reader's personal thoughts and interpretations.